Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up, we're looking at a Raiders Week 5 preview against the Indianapolis Colts. The Silver and Black come into this game with a 1-3 record. And if you think this is a must-win game, I want you to hit that like button because yesterday I said that the season wasn't over. Well, guess what? If you lose and you go to 1-4 on the season, your playoff chances go all the way down to 5%. If you get a win, they go up to about 29%. It's a major, major difference. And for Pete Carroll and this brand new regime, if you don't want to lose Raider Nation, you better figure out a way to win this game. Now, if you're watching the show and you're like, Mitch, why should I subscribe to the Raiders Report and why should I tune in on a watch party day? Well, we had 159,000 people. Think about that. There's more people that watch the Raiders Report than actually go to the game. We gave away over $2,000 in duck races. So even if the Raiders don't win, you got a chance to put some money in your pocket. And you're going to have a chance to win a signed Raiders jersey. It's a surprise, so make sure you tune in. So here's what we're going to go through. I'm going to go through and tell you what to watch for. We're going to look at a lot of stats, a lot of analytics, and if you're a fantasy football fan, this is definitely a show that you should watch every single Thursday. Let's first talk about the quarterback, though, because Geno Smith got to be better. The Raiders improved on offense, defense, and special teams against the Chicago Bears, and ultimately, we need that type of performance again from our team. We just need our quarterback not to shit the bed. Right now, he leads the NFL in interceptions with 7. Can't happen. He is playing worse. When I say, hey, Geno Smith is playing worse in his first 4 games with the Raiders than Gardner Minshew and Jimmy Garoppolo did. If you don't believe me, go check out my video on Monday. The Colts, they're allowing 223.8 passing yards per game. That's 21st in the NFL. If I am Geno, I'm trying to get the ball out quicker. If I'm Chip Kelly, I'm also trying to help him get the ball out quicker because no Colton Miller. It's going to be a big test for number 7. I hope that he ends up being the quarterback that I thought he could be. Let's go to the running back position, and this is how we're going to win the game on offense. I wore the jersey. I wore the shirt for a reason. He's on the thumbnail for a reason. This has to be an Ashton Jeanty type of game. We finally got it going a little bit on the ground last week. Jeanty had 155 total yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 through the air, 1 on the ground. Raheem Mostert, I want to see a little bit more of him. 4 carries, 62 yards, averaging 15 yards per carry. But the reason why we have to be able to win on the ground game is because without Colton Miller, I'm a little bit more concerned about our vertical passing attack. The Colts this season have done a good job against the ground game. 96 rushing yards per game. This is a big test to Jordan Meredith. This is a big test for JPJ. It's a big test for our ground game. If we can't get the ground game going, we're just not going to win many football games. Let's go to the wide receiver room next up here on today's program. And somebody besides Trey Tucker and Jacoby Meyers got to do something. I don't know if it's you, Dante Thornton. Jack Bech is going to get more opportunities this week, which is something that I was told. And the Colts, they've allowed 58 receptions to the wide receiver position this year. That is 30th in the National Football League. Indy has also allowed 6 touchdowns to the wide receiver position. That's tied for 28. My point is, Brock Bowers still, let's be honest, not 100% healthy. Michael Mayer, at the time that I'm recording this, I don't know if he's still in the concussion protocol. I anticipate that he's going to be able to play. But to Jack Bech, Dante Thornton, we got to get more out of those guys because what teams are doing right now is they're going, well, if we take away Jacoby, if we take away Trey Tucker, Brock Bowers isn't healthy enough to stretch the field. We need somebody else to pick up that slack. So Bech and Thornton, to the rookies, you need to have your game this week. I want to know your confidence level. And this show is about honesty. I don't expect people when I ask them this question to type a 10. Because if you're typing 10, man, oh man, I wish I had that type of confidence. Because right now, the way that I feel, I'm not all that confident. And I can't blame people for really not having that confidence. So please, let me know down below what's your confidence level in the Raiders to beat the Indianapolis Colts. For me, it's probably about a 4. And even that seems a little bit high. Let's go to the tight end room here. But again, prove me wrong, Raiders. Prove me wrong, Raiders. Tight end room here. I want to see a little bit more 2 tight end sets, and I like some of the 12 personnel that the Raiders were running last week against Chicago, and I think you kind of have to do it this week again for the simple fact of you got to be able to help out Stone Forsythe at left tackle, and you got to be able to help out DJ Glaze at the right tackle spot. The other thing that I would actually consider doing if I was the Raiders, because Ian Thomas did enough last week to show that he could help out in the blocking game. if we're unsure of Dante and Jack Besh's ability to contribute right away, if Brock Bowers is out there on the field, I still think he's the best wide receiver we have. What if you move Brock Bowers out to wide receiver and then you allow Ian Thomas and Michael Mayer to play tight end? It allows us to help out on the offensive line. It allows us, the Raiders, to then be a little bit more physical. And the Colts this season against the tight end position have got 26 targets against, 19 catches, 177 yards, and 1 touchdown. They've done a good job against tight ends, and it's probably because they've been going up against Tyler Warren at practice all offseason. Let's now go to the offensive line, and I think for the first time since doing this show, the number one thing that I'm not going to talk about, like every week it's been offensive line's got to play better. Offensive line's got to play better. Today, quarterback need to play better. And Geno Smith is the number one thing, but we also got to make sure that we protect him and protect him the way that, honestly, Raiders did against Chicago, because the Raiders in that game against the Bears, they allowed only 3 pressures. Entering that game, they allowed 51 in the first 3 weeks. With Colton Miller out with that ankle injury, Stone Forsythe is expected to be the starting left tackle according to Pete Carroll, and the Colts this season have got 10 sacks. That's tied for 12th most. Not only do you need to be able to show Geno that, hey, man, we can protect you, and not only do you need to be able to prove to Brennan Carroll and Coach Chip Kelly that we still have that ability to stretch the field, I want to see more outside zone runs. I want to see a very physical offensive line. I want to see a team that runs behind JPJ. I want to see a team that's not afraid to run behind Dylan Parham, because we've been dog washing Dylan Parham a lot this season. But when you turn on the film, the Dylan Parham that I saw the first 3 weeks of the season and then the Dylan Parham that I saw in week 4, I think it's 2 totally different players. If Parham shows up and plays that way, this offensive line can get it going, because the Raiders ran really effectively this past week behind Parham at left guard. Bottom line, it's always going to start in the trenches. And in a game that with Indy, they're going to play physical football, and we got to be able to figure out a way how to match it. Coming up next here on the program, we're going to get into what the Raiders need to do on the defensive side of the football, because the defense has played well 3 out of 4 games. And I think when you lose a player like Colton Miller and you got quarterback struggles like Geno's been having, the defense has got to keep it going. Luckily, we got number 98 on our side, which is always a helpful thing. Also, what I love, Prize Picks. And for anybody out there watching, whether you want to put some money on a football game right now, a lot of good baseball going on, and I don't know how many of y'all were hanging out with me yesterday on our Red Sox channel, but I had a great time. And Prize Picks, I don't want you to miss any of the excitement this season where it's good to be right. On Prize Picks, how you play, it's actually up to you. If you want flexibility, choose a flex play where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for the power play. No matter your play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. Prize Picks also invented the flex play, which means that you could still cash out even if one of your lineups isn't perfect. You could double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. And speaking of being right, huge shout out to my guy, Jack Lauderay. Not only did the Red Sox get a dub, but he also put a little bit of money in his pocket. 3-pick power play. Garrett Crochet, 7.5 strikeout. That was one of the best pitching performances that I've seen in a long time. Matsuzaka Yoshida, he came in, got a clutch little single, total bases. More on that. And then Max Fried, more on the 1 walk allowed. So bottom line, if the Raiders are struggling, there's a lot of good baseball going on. There's a lot of other good football going on. Don't let a bad Raiders season not allow you to have fun watching sports, because I know this. I'm going to be playing a lot of Prize Picks all season long. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. Huge, huge shout out to Prize Picks for hooking up the nation. Let's go now to some of the things that we're going to be watching for on the defensive side of the football. We'll start with the secondary today, and then we will go to the big guys up the middle. At cornerback, we're going to be looking at Eric Stokes. He's questionable with that knee injury, and Kai Blue Kelly has been, honestly, man, really flipping bad over the last 2 weeks. Let's just keep it real. Hasn't been good for Kai Blue. And to me, I get a little bit worried about the Indianapolis Colts' ability to use 4 wide receivers. They use Michael Pittman. They use Josh Downs. They use Alex Pierce. A.D. Mitchell had a bonehead play, but when you have a bunch of guys that can at least make an impact on the game. Like, if I'm the Raiders, I would actually watch how Indy uses their receivers because they got their main guy, Michael Pittman Jr. That's their go-to guy. That's going to be the dude that they're looking for in the most clutch situations. He's our Jacoby Meyers. But then if you can get some of that other production for a cornerback room that's got a banged-up Eric Stokes, for a cornerback room that's got a banged-up DeCamerion Richardson, we don't know if he's going to be able to play. I mean, the Raiders right now are running the least amount of sub-packages in that secondary. And what does that tell me? They don't believe in the corners or the guys that we have on the field. I think, quite frankly, we need to add a corner. And if you didn't see my video that I put out on Wednesday, go check it out because I talk about trading for a corner. Let's go to the safety room here. And Jeremy Chinn, this might be the biggest Jeremy Chinn game that we have asked him to play because if it was up to me, I want to use Jeremy Chinn as somebody that can be physical to stop the running game going up against Jonathan Taylor. But then also, I want to be able to use Chinn up against a guy like Tyler Warren, who has been feasting this upcoming season. Isaiah Paul-Lamau, I wish they would use him right. I wish they would play him at strong safety because at strong safety, he showed that he could be one of the better young strong safeties in the NFL. Right now, he's the worst free safety in the league. He is 79th out of 79, and he just can't cover. And I know that he can't cover. And until we figure out a way to use him in the correct way, but we should have gone out and gotten a free safety. The Colts, though, they are averaging 6.5 yards per play. That's number one in the NFL. They also have 4 plays of 40-plus yards, also number one in the NFL. If that ground game gets going, they're going to try to tack it down the field. They don't do it too often, but because that ground game with Jonathan Taylor gets going, then they can really stretch it because teams start biting in, the play action gets working, and then they hit you deep. For our safeties, you got to be able to show that you can tackle again because I thought they did a good job last week, but then you can't give up the deep play. If we give up the deep play against Indy, it's only going to help that ground game get going, and it's only going to help Daniel Jones look more and more competent. From a special team standpoint, I thought the Raiders made a lot of really good leaps and bounds on special teams. Now, if it was up to me personally, I still want to see more Raheem Mostert. I still want to see more Dylan Laube. Trey Tucker got to do a better job, I think, just catching the football. We had a few holding issues, some blocks in the backs, which moved us back a little bit. Obviously, the play that everyone's going to talk about is going to be that missed field goal at the end where the Raiders lost to the Chicago Bears. What's really unfortunate about that play, if you turn on the tape, the guy that's usually protecting that right side of the field goal unit, it's actually usually Michael Mayer. And Mayer was unable to play because of that concussion. So the Raiders were asking John Lalu to do it, who is a defensive tackle. And then you saw Jacob Bobenmoyer put his head down. Chicago Bears timed it up, and unfortunately it was a blocked 54-yard field goal. For Indy, though, they have a lot of confidence in their kicker. And right now, this is a team that they're going with our ground game, with the way our defense is playing. If we have an opportunity to put up 3 points, I'm going to take the 3 points. Right now, Spencer Schrader leads the NFL with 13 made field goals. It's a 92%. They're going to take points. And I think if you're the Raiders, if you're on the road, I want the Raiders to be aggressive, but I also don't want the Raiders to get in a hole because that's going to lean on Indy's strength. If we can get out to an early lead, make Indy try to play catch-up ball, that's how we have a chance to win this football game. But I think with the Colts, why we're talking about this last, it's got to start in the trenches because if you slow down Jonathan Taylor, if you slow down that ground game, if you get after Daniel Jones, it can really be a much different football game. And like Max Crosby, he was an animal last week. I mean, I've seen so many great Max Crosby games. That might have been one of the best I've ever seen. 5 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 3 PBUs. Max Crosby is right now, I believe, 11th in the NFL in pass breakups for a defensive end. That's Looney Tunes. 3 pressures, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble. I will say I thought Malcolm Kuntz is coming off his best game. Is that a Malcolm's making strides or the Chicago Bears offensive line minus 2 starters is really bad? We got to be able to figure out what that's going to be, but I like the momentum that I saw from Kuntz. I want to see more Tyree Wilson on the interior. But Indy, they've allowed 4 sacks this season, which actually when I say tied for 29th, that's like the 4th best actually is where they're at. And they have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. They always protect Daniel Jones. They get the ground game going. So really, we got to be able to get after the quarterback, but it's not going to be easy. Tied for 29th, that's on me. It's tied for 4th best. Let's go to defensive tackle here. And, you know, I hate even admitting this, but the loss of Christian Wilkins has really hurt our interior ability to be able to get after the quarterback. I think the guys have done an okay job from time to time. Last week, I think it was actually probably one of the worst defensive tackle games that I've seen from our unit. Adam Butler didn't tackle well. I don't think Thomas Booker tackled well. Lalou, I don't think tackled well. And this has got to be a game where you got to wrap him up, because if you don't and you get Jonathan Taylor going that full head of steam, he's leading the NFL in rushing yards for a reason. 77 carries, 414. You're going to get a healthy dose. You're going to get a healthy dose, 20 carries of Jonathan Taylor. How do we get J.J. Pegues involved? How do we get Tonka Hemingway involved? To me, if I'm looking at Patrick Graham, if I'm looking at that coaching staff, I'm going, we need all hands on deck. We need to be fresh. We need to be healthy. We need to be able to have players that can sub in and sub out, because I do really think this is going to be the biggest game of the year for our defensive tackles. And then let's talk about the linebackers. Kind of the same thing here. And when you look at how the Colts run their offense right now, they really pick on linebackers, and they make the linebackers decide, are you going to drop back into coverage, or are you going to creep up near the line and try to slow off Jonathan Taylor? For our linebackers, I'm not surprised by it. They're doing really good north. They're not doing so good south. And, when they drop back into coverage, especially Devin White, he's been a liability. And, Landon Roberts been a liability in coverage. And we need to be able to figure out a way to match up with Tyler Warren, who shows right now he's giving Brock Bowers a run for his money for the best young tight end in the NFL. I know Bowers isn't healthy, but also watch Tyler Warren. He is a physical tight end, fitting very, very well with Indianapolis. 27 targets, 19 catches, 263 yards, leads the team in receiving yards. We need an A-plus game, though, from Jermaine Pratt. I need an A-plus game from Devin White. Quite frankly, if it was up to me, I'll put Jamal Adams out there on the field a little bit, because I want to see some of that juice from a, athletic sideline-to-sideline ability. Daniel Jones, though, also, he's got 3 rushing touchdowns, and he's got 8 first-down runs. It's been a way that they've extended drives, and if we can show that we are going to be able to match them at the point of the football, I do think that they could have a little bit of trouble moving down the field consistently. So be real with me, y'all. And I wanted to ask this question. I typically ask something about defense, but let's just be honest here. The amount of times I was asked this week, I was like, I got to put this in the preview. If Geno Smith throws an interception in the first quarter, should the Raiders bench him? Yes? No? If you're going to say yes, it's got to be Kenny Pickett, right? Aiden O'Connell's still not ready to go. If Geno Smith throws an INT in the first quarter, give me a yes, give me a no. My answer is this. Still going to say no. And I'm going to say no because I do really think that the only way the Raiders are going to be able to get this season on track, the only way that the Raiders are going to be able to be a team that I think a lot of us were hoping they would be, is if you get Geno Smith on track, and there's going to be some growing pains. There's clearly some growing pains right now, learning a new offense. A lot of pieces still learning. But we got to be able to show that not only are we learning, we are improving and getting better. And I know Geno's got a tough mental upside, but he's got to be able to get it done, man, because we're all starting to get a little bit frustrated. So before I get out of here, one more time, I'm going to be going live 1 hour before kickoff. Raiders on the road against the Indianapolis Colts. And I know that we're 1-3, but I do expect, at least coming into the season, I expected the Raiders to beat the Colts. I expected the Raiders to be able to beat the Titans next week. And if we can get to 3-3 before we go play against the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 7, I think we're going to be all right. But if you lose this game, it might just be one of those years yet again. If you don't know my live schedule for the entire week, this is literally it. If you want to hang out with me when I go live, I'm going live this Thursday. It's going to be a hell of a time. It's going to be a 49ers game. We're going to be rooting against them. Live on Raiders game day 1 hour before. The 6th is actually my wife's birthday. So you guys better show up, because if I'm missing my wife's birthday, believe me, I'm going to hear about it. So at least we got to have a lot of audience members here. And then on Tuesday, I'm also going to be live. If you want to hang out with Chugs and I, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and I better see you there on game day.